79.4% voter turnout. And it took just over 5 hours to certify Democratic Party's Lee Jae-myung has won the presidential election. We dissect the key takeaways of the voter turnout with Mr. An Jun-seong. Early, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Sir, we saw a whopping 79.4% voter turnout, the highest figure in 20 years.
Yes, that's true, right? And then, however, I was expecting maybe the higher.
Higher than 79.4.
A little bit more higher, but it seems like 78. I was expecting maybe a little bit over 80%. Well, still, it's a pretty high number.
Still a good participation.
And the second highest.
Second highest. Right, and the Liberal Party's Lee Jae-myung, as he has officially claimed the victory, we are still seeing the votes being counted, but it looks like he's close to clinching that 50% majority of the votes. Now, we've seen that throughout the campaign period, even before the so-called blackout period, that all the presidential election, runners in the past who led the polls managed to, become the president eventually, right?
Yeah, that's true. I think that, Lee Jae-myung had been leading the poll for entire period. And plus, the interesting thing is that I think his approval, the rate, about the average 48% throughout the period, and then it turned out to be about 49 plus, a little bit more above 49%. So it's about 1 point difference from the polling. So it's very interesting to see how close to, the number he get in the actual final result.
Well, you were expecting higher voter participation, but did that figure surprise you by any chance?
Well, I was expecting a little bit higher voting turnout, also the higher rate for him to maybe above 50%, maybe something, but a little bit lower than I expected. But still, I think there's a widespread in public anger, something, what happened on December 3rd and what happened thereafter. There still is a resentment in the public. It's widely spreading. So I think that's what we have to see. And then I'm hoping maybe if we will be elected, it's going to over 50% support, because that will be having stronger driving force in the first term. So I guess that's the hoping they will try to do well, and plus that DP is controlling the National Assembly, so it's going to be maybe a very smooth start for him. Also, there will be good the honeymoon period between the executive office and the legislature. That's be a good start for him.
Exactly. We always have to go through that honeymoon period for any president around the world. Now, it's also noteworthy what the centrists of South Korea bet on. Now, which candidate did the centrists bet on this time?
Well, that's an interesting question, because many people talk about centralists, how they voted for. But my question is that how can you define the centralist, right? And because South Korea has been using the secret ballot system, means that we don't know who voted, and we don't even know who's your friends or your wife or husband voted for.
That's true.
Right? The secret ballot, right? So I guess what we can do, based on the facts that we can speculate based on the undecided vote what happened, because I would check that our previous voting, the previous polls, and it showed about 15% average undecided vote. But it's very interesting that our 15% undecided vote, about 12% turn out to be shy voter. So go for the Kim Mun-soo or the Lee Jun-seong, and only 1% went to the Lee Jae-myung. So I guess there's a symptom based on that the exit poll. I think that there's still quite a number of the shy voters in Korea right now.
Right, and there wasn't a major surprise or a twist in voter turnout by region, though, right?
Yes, actually, I was a little bit surprised, actually, because if you see that data and the early voting, there was a quite strong, very surprising result, except I think Lee Jae-myung won most region except the southeast, even the Gyeongsang-Bukdo only. I think it's very surprising. But actually, in reality, at the end, the final poll seems quite different, and just divide east and west divide once again. But we haven't get final result yet. So, but it seems like they still have a big divide between the south and east and west region. I think that's the one. Yeah, and I was a little surprised that Gangwon province in the beginning, according to the exit poll, seems like Lee Jae-myung was leading, but we have to wait and see what really happened. But I guess it's not going to happen this time.
Right. Well, last but not least, we have to talk about the voter turnout by the age group, because I do have to mention people in the 20s and 30s showed up to be a major force in the snap presidential election. Now, what do you think how it turned out this time?
It's an interesting question. It's a very similar answer with the previous question. Is that how can you know who's the aging voter, right?
Right.
Well, it's based on, I think the number is based on the exit poll being conducted by the broadcast companies. And what we can expect from that, I think that according to the exit poll analysis, I think that the 50s actually become more liberal in a way, and then 10 and 20 become more conservative. I think there's a big change in the demographic changes. And plus, however, you have to look at the population growth rate right now.
Right.
So that the 50s and really the baby boomers and the 10s and 20s, and that's very small number of the voters. So that may be I think we factor later on what happened in the future demographic. Also, not only the regional, separation, and also there's age and gender gap among the constituents. So I guess we have to see. So it's not going to be easy game for any party from now on, because there will be regional issues. Also, there's a demographic issues as well.
South Korea is a growing, aging society, so it'll be interesting to see, how that affects the upcoming elections in the future.
Yeah, there could be a factor there.
Definitely, sir. Thank you so much for coming in this early in the morning.
My pleasure. Right.